pathogenesis of COVID-19 in pregnancy. It's for you, Gehan.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, sir, for kind introduction. Good morning to you all. So this symposium, as Chairperson told, it's COVID infection in pregnancy. And firstly, as to initiate the symposium, I'll be starting with the pathogenesis of COVID-19 in pregnancy. I have nothing to disclose, and some images are taken from the Google. So in this short discussion or the talk, I'll be discussing about why COVID-19 is important in pregnancy. Why we should know what is the special thing about COVID-19 in pregnant women when compared to non-pregnant population. Then I'll be moving to the scope of pathogenesis, discussing under the subheadings of immunology, respiratory system, cardiovascular system, coagulation, and etc. Then how COVID-19 is going to have an impact on pregnancy. Then at last I'll be discussing the conclusion and our experience from our study and what is yet to be understand or yet to find out in clever enough to break their career. That's why they are more engaging. But then, HSP, there are numerous pathogens who can break their career and cause pain infection and engage. Need to work with well-being in neutral and both feeling both before. However, here we don't know much about Afghanistan. Forget the COVID-19 and the world. We don't know much about Afghanistan. And if we don't know much about the Afghanistan COVID-19, so further research is required. Right. Then concludes the pathogenesis. Themes, and I'm highlighting few points. The summary of impact of COVID-19 on pregnancy. And this I mentioned earlier, compare non-pregnant women with COVID-19, pregnant women with COVID-19 and worse maternal outcomes, including pregnant ICU admissions with high morbidity and mortality. Risk of preterm birth is higher than non-COVID pregnant patients. It's 3 to 2 times this, and primarily hypertension. So, before maternal deliberation, we may decide to deliver the baby for maternal patient. So, primarily hypertension, but there is evidence that COVID-19 per se can lead to spontaneous pregnant baby. And risk of SGA is there, small publication there. COVID-19 challenges the risk of stillbirth or ingravidity. And it increases the risk of fetal compromise in female. And increases the risk, rate of cesarean birth. Again, maybe hypergenic or we may decide to let us be most of the observation in the country at least to minimize the start exposure during the period of labor, which may take hours. We can electively deliver with minimal start exposure and all the precautions because we need to. And vertical transmission is possible. think that antibodies have been found in your antibody lab in the state of and now the recommendation is something can be given at any time. We can disease or in so, but we experience in our unit is not to be better during the pandemic. We conducted a retrospective cohort study. It's made users that we not the pandemic. Majority at the mild illness. Nearly 7% and 7% were very limited. And experience COVID-19 pneumonia 11%. For example, 7.2 required intensive care during the pandemic.
Sorry, the completed the pregnancy, I think percentage is wrong. 67 out of 69 completed the pregnancy, sorry for the mistake. And there were 2 early miscarriages. Among the completed pregnancies, vaginal delivery rate was 16%. There was a very high C-section rates, planned elective, due to the reasons that I mentioned earlier. 76% we delivered by C-section. And there were 8% IUDs. The incidence of preterm birth was 11.2 and lower birth weight was 11.6. What we don't understand at the moment and what are the opportunities for future research. The vertical transmission we need to look in depth and the heterogeneity. Up to now, there is no solid evidence for heterogeneity with COVID-19. And transmission through breast milk, neonatal outcome, safety of the vaccine. For the now, we know the recommendation is safe, but we need further research to confirm because it takes time. And even the study that we conducted in Peradeniya, retrospective study, and nowadays we are collecting the data for the control group, then only we can have a good, conclusions, better conclusions if we can compare the COVID-19 population, the pregnant population with pregnant population who didn't have COVID-19. So there should be a comparison control group. Yeah, that concludes my lecture. Thank you for patience and listening. We'll take the questions at the end.
Thank you, Gyan, for your collaborative and very comprehensive talk on this pathophysiology of COVID-19 in pregnancy. I think, so we will have a discussion after other 2 panel lecturers finish their lectures. So I'll ask Dr. Samanna Nayakara to introduce our next speaker. Thank you, Gyan, for your excellent lecture.
Right, so our next speaker is Professor Chaminda Kandauda. He's a professor in gynecology and obstetrics, currently the head of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology of Faculty of Medicine, University of Peradeniya. And he's a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist at Teaching Hospital Peradeniya. So Professor Chaminda Kandauda is a very popular teacher and a clinician in the faculty and the hospital. And he obtained his MBBS from University of Runa in 1998 and obtained MD in Obs and Gynae in 2005. He's a member of the Royal College of Gynecologists and Obstetricians. And before joining the Faculty of Medicine, he has worked as a consultant in gynecology and obstetrics at Tambutegam Hospital, Ampar Hospital, and Hambantota Hospital. So he's going to talk to us this morning about management of COVID-19 in pregnancy. Over to you, Professor Chaminda Kandauda.
Good morning to everybody. Thank you very much, Chairman, sir, for your kind introduction. Before starting my lecture, actually, I would like to highlight why it is important, why we are talking about pregnancy. Already Gihan mentioned about pathophysiology. That's why. That is two life, mother and fetus. They are not only life, that is completely two different. If you are not identifying the correct time, if you are not proper in the advised to go to the proper place in the correct time, or if not taking action in the proper time, that is affect with both life. That's why we are here today. That's why a lot of guidelines and discussing about pregnancy-related COVID-19 infection. My main objectives here today: management of mild asymptomatic pregnant women, management of moderate to severe disease in pregnancy, specific management of severe critical disease in pregnancy, referrals and admission to the HTU and ICU care, interpartum management of infected mothers, postpartum management of infected mothers, and feeding neonates by infected mother. Then clinical presentation almost same as general population. Majority is asymptomatic. Again, fever and cough is the leading symptoms they are present to us. They are roughly 40%. When we are thinking about the mild infections, that is investigations, laboratory testing is diagnosed same as general population. Then again, there are routinely no investigation required for in the COVID-19 mild cases. But again, persistent mild infection or the symptoms are worsening, we have to do some basic and advanced investigations. As example, full blood count, again, renal function test, liver function test, every 48 hours to 24 hours, depending on their requirement, and CRP and ESR and prolactin level. Why it is important? Because that recently they identify the serum prolactin level. There's some protection for COVID-19 infection. That is some positive thing for pregnant mothers and children. That is, we know during pregnancy and during breastfeeding, their prolactin level is high. As a result of that prolactin level, if we can put as a marker, get the outcome of the pregnancy and that related with COVID-19 infection. In addition to chest X-ray, is the other important demand investigation to decide whether they are moving to the mild to moderate to severe. Again, management of the mild or asymptomatic pregnant women, most are home isolation. But according to the Sri Lankan ministry guideline, all pregnant women, they are advised to admit to the hospital. But after 48 hours, within 48 hours, we can, with the help of the physician, decide if mother is mild or moderate to severe. If the patient is not significant symptoms, then again, we can send back to the home and encourage for home isolation. Again, adequate hydration, that is the other important factor. We have to encourage that because that is the factor is deciding. Hydration is the deciding whether move into the mild to moderate to severe. Again, routine appointment, we can discourage not to do routine investigations like oral glucose toner test and growth scan in the routine assessment because we can postpone for another 2 weeks. But if fetus is in the third trimester, again, we have to manage as an inward patient and regular assessment of the fetal and maternal well-being is important. Again, daily fetal movement, especially for third trimester, we have to encourage. Again, fetal monitoring after discharge, again, after 2 weeks, the growth and Doppler studies is important. Again, facilities for then antenatal, especially home isolation patients, we can encourage teleconsultation and video consultation. That is again part of good communication with the patient, and that time we can identify whether he move into the asymptomatic to symptomatic symptoms. Again, self-monitoring of oxygen saturation, again, other important part. If you have encouraged for home isolation, then regular monitoring of oxygen level using the oximeter, we can offer. But in the absence of that, even some patients closely observe other symptoms like discoloration of the lips and skin, give some idea about the hydration and oxygen saturation. Again, not only that, again, patient is profuse sweating without much physical work. Again, maybe another symptoms. in that way, we can educate patients when before we are moving, patient is encouraged for home isolation, at least then some basic assessment of oxygen saturation. Again, when pregnancy, we know that one easily we can divide first, second, and third trimester. Again, first and second trimester easily after identify of a mild COVID-19 infection, we can encourage for home isolation. Again, symptomatic management for a patient having fever, and again, correct hydrations, and consultation with the obstetrician and physician, telecommunication, and in that way we can arrange. Again, review after 2 weeks, that after over that infection period, better assess the both mother and fetus. And third trimester, this depend on the obstetric requirement. We have to decide whether home isolation or in the manage as an inward patient. If patient is high risk for the fetal or complications, then we have to manage as an inward patient. Otherwise, asymptomatic, or most of the majority patients are low-risk mothers, then we can encourage home isolation with good communication with that patient. I'm not going to discuss about more details about home isolation and details about hand hygiene. Asymptomatic or mild COVID-19 infection patient, then the communication with the treating physician is very important. We are joint discussion, especially chest physician, very important part. Again, we can encourage for rest and maintain adequate hydration and take enough nutrition, more diet, and self-monitoring oxygen saturation, as I mentioned earlier. Again, symptomatic management for fever and running nose and cough. Again, we can offer some treatment. And if fever not controlled with maximum dose of paracetamol, we can encourage non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs for during that fever and for cough. Then other important signs and symptoms when we are managing patient is home isolation. Again, we have to assess what are the symptoms and signs to identify danger signs and symptoms. As examples, the symptoms, worsening of the shortness of breath, and inability to tolerate oral hydration or need some medications, and persistent pleuritic chest pain, new onset of confusion or lethargy, or obstetric complications such as there's an infection itself, the high risk of preterm labor, or vaginal bleeding because that's some other undiagnosed problems, or any decreased fetal movement, especially in the third trimester. What are the signs? Is tachypnea, unremitting fever, if the high fever is more than 39 centigrade, or oxygen saturation less than 95%, or cyanotic lips, pace, or fingertips, then we have to identify and we have to offer manage as inward patient. Then patient having, after discussing about mild COVID-19 infection, I would like to move to moderate to severe 19 infection. That is mainly based on the chest, appearance of the chest, changes of the chest. That is when infected patient become hypoxic or suspected to have pneumonia. It is called moderate to severe COVID infection. It is confirmed to have pneumonia. The patient need to be started with triple treatment. What are these triple treatment? That is oxygen therapy, enoxaparin, and IV dexamethasone. Then in addition to that oxygen, enoxaparin, and IV dexamethasone, with the help of microbiologist, we can discuss, may need antibiotics and antiviral therapy. Then what are the criteria to admit HTO ICU admission? Then respiratory rate is more than 30 beats per minute. Oxygen saturation is less than 93% at rest. Arterial perfusion pressure oxygen and oxygen concentration is less than 300 millimeter mercury. Patient with more than 50% lesions progression with 24 hours in the lung imaging. That's why it is important taking the X-rays regularly. Again, quick sequential oxygen failure assessment score. Again, other important factor to decide managing in the ICU care. Delivery. Mode of delivery is pregnancy itself. Pregnancy related COVID-19 is not important factor to decide its mode of delivery. But in the presence of the severe cases, if we need that early delivery, that is, we have to most of the end up with the emergency cesarean section. Otherwise, then most of the mode of delivery based on the fetal or maternal requirement that is related to or based on the obstetric reasons. Vaginal delivery, again, same as principles of labor and delivery, same as other isolation guidelines, and person-to-person contact should be limited. Time in labor should be limited. That's why we have to close, because of that close monitoring and limited number of people have to monitor patient. And again, there's no contraindication for cervical ripening. If you need, there's no contraindication for vaginal delivery. There's a place for same as other normal pregnancies. Then mechanical methods like balloon catheter, even prostaglandin E2 we can offer. Again, abdominal delivery. Again, we have that good experience. We have all during that COVID pandemic period. We have COVID operation theater. Again, minimize the number of persons in the operation room, and healthcare team to be in PP, and minimize the movements of the team in and out during the procedure. Again, interpartum management. As a result of the infection, we know fetus is a high risk. Patient is the high risk during that interpartum period. As a result of that, we need to put multidisciplinary approach, especially consult an obstetrician, consult an anesthesiologist, because sometimes maybe end up with a cesarean section. And neonatologist, very important part to management of the fetal outcome, again, after delivery. Again, when we are assessing that one with the help of partogram, then especially our base of management, our assessment, temperature, maternal temperature, pulse rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, and oxygen saturation. The patient who are in labor during that interpartum period. Again, fetus is a high risk during that labor period. Then if you have facilities, continuous elective fetal monitoring, that is ideal. That's why that type of labor should be managed in the tertiary care hospital. Again, corticosteroid, we have to offer if the preterm labor, if you are going to deliver, is more before 34 weeks. Postpartum management, maternal monitoring, asymptomatic and mild symptomatic patients, routine postpartum maternal monitoring is enough. But mild to moderate to severe cases need to close monitoring, especially after vaginal delivery. We have to close first 24 hours. Every 4 hours, need to assess the maternal vital signs. Again, after cesarean section, then first 48 hours, then 4 hours need to assess the maternal vital signs. Again, we can't forget that one. After delivery, postpartum period itself, the risk to the mother for depression, because we know that one postpartum depression. But as a result of COVID-19, or as a result of their isolation from the other, as a result of that infection, always we have to think about that input from the psychiatric department, psychiatric team. That is very, very important part. What is the encourage about the breastfeeding? Yes, always we have to encourage about breastfeeding. Then after birth, mother is asymptomatic and displays few symptoms, then we have to encourage breastfeeding. But mother have a significant cough, fever, or dyspnea, or baby is in the ICU care, then we have to arrange mother and fetus separation as protection of the fetus. When your protective measures, what are the protective measures we are encouraged to mother during breastfeeding? Hand washing prior to the handle of the infant, and wearing a mask during breastfeeding and handling of the infant, and keep 6 feet distance from the baby when not feeding, and limited visitors. Again, what is a discharge policy? That's also mild to moderate and severe. It can be varied. In the mild asymptomatic patient, we can discharge after 10 days of symptoms onset and no fever for last 3 days. The moderate, again, we can divide into 2 groups. The fever resolve within 3 days and oxygen saturation maintained without support. That type of group, we can discharge after 7 days of onset of symptoms. In the absence of the fever without antipyretics, then we can discharge. Again, patient have moderate, but symptom not resolve and demand oxygen therapy continue. then discharge only after resolution of clinical symptoms. Again, ability to maintain oxygen saturation for 3 consecutive days. This mild to moderate group does not require rapid test or PCR test before discharge. But in severe, if you identify severe COVID-19 infection, discharge only after clinical result negative for routine PCR test. That is must. Then after it is negative, we can discharge. Today, then I would like to highlight what is take-home message. Mild COVID-19 infection does not require hospitalization. We can home isolation, we can encourage after identify of the mild infection, and antenatal care through teleconsultation and video consultation key to provide quality care during pandemic. Again, management of labor is not alter women giving birth during the COVID-19 pandemic or women with confirmed or susceptible COVID-19 infection. COVID-19 is not indicated for alter route of delivery. That is mainly depend on the obstetric reasons. Breastfeeding not contraindicated during that or after delivering of the COVID-19 infected baby. And proper respiratory and hand hygiene is very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Chaminda Kandura. So we'll entertain questions at the end of the session. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Keeping in time. So, and we will, as Dr. Samandanakar said, we will have the discussion later. So it's my pleasure to invite our next speaker. He's Dr. Sarda Hemapriya. She's the Senior Consultant Obstetrician and Gynecologist at National Hospital Kandy, my good friend and the colleague. Actually, he has his primary education at Royal College Colombo and got his MBBS in 1983. I think some of you may not have born also at that time, isn't it? So, and from Faculty of Medicine Colombo. Then he had his post-graduate education and completed MS in Obs and Gynae in 1989. Then he had his overseas training in United Kingdom at the Royal Gwent Hospital and Ipswich General Hospital, Ipswich in UK from 1991 to 94. And after coming back, he served all around country, starting from Ampara-based hospital. You will not have that at that time. There were no obstetrician gynecologists in Ampara. It was primary time because they didn't have anything to work there. But he went there. He is the first to go to Ampara and started the obstetric unit there. Then down to Anuradhapura, then to Kurunagala, then Kegol, and at the end, he is with us at National Hospital Kandy. So it's my great pleasure to invite Dr. Sarda Hemapriya to deliver his lecture in management of, or together with the management of this COVID-19 pandemic during this period. So over to you, Sarda.
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Abekon, for your kind words. What I'm going to talk about is not many scientific things. I'm going to talk about our work we used to do in the ward. Now, things and the picture have changed because the Delta variant and Omicron variant are completely two different things. We enjoy life now with Omicron. We are not that much scared. But the time we started, everybody was scared and the picture was completely different. So I'm going to talk about few things. We are looking back during past 2 years. What were the challenges and what we have done? In China, Wuhan, 2019, December 31st, they announced the population in Wuhan having very difficult to manage respiratory disease. So they were doing a lot of studies and they found there's a virus like SARS, but worse than SARS, which causing a lot of problems among the population. In 2020, February 11, the virus was named as COVID-19. Then only everybody was talking about COVID-19. Before that, people used to say Corona. And when I'm telling few things, I had to have a little bit of sarcasm because this is how we have to look back what happened to us. So it is, you can see 2020 March 11 only, WHO says this is a pandemic. So you can see almost 3 months gone. Disease gone everywhere in the world because you know the Chinese are everywhere. So disease gone everywhere in the world. After 3 months only, WHO says this is a pandemic. Very funny to see these things now. And in Sri Lanka, you know, as we know, the 27th of January 2020, even the WHO says it's a pandemic. The first patient was diagnosed. It's a Chinese tourist. And you know, the tamasha we had, admitted, a lot of people went to see and hugging, kissing, so many things. And the hospital was named as, the IDH hospital named as COVID Management Center. So that was the only first hospital Sri Lanka we named, and there were consultants managing these patients. So that is in 2020 January. So if you look at the cases we had in Sri Lanka, so looking at this graph, you can see there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves. But people name waves a different way, so I don't know. But out of those, you can see the worst waves we faced in May 2021 and August 2021. So those are the 2 worst waves we had because we had a lot of difficulties. If you look at number of cases and deaths in Sri Lanka, starting from 2020 March, we had only 2 deaths and only 122 cases. It was increased. You can see 2021 May, we had 135,000 cases. And August, we had 308,839 cases. And you can see 4,441 deaths. And the 1st of January 22, it was 587,000 patients and 14,979 deaths. I'm not going to go afterwards because in Omicron, you know, though government says these are the number of cases, it is, I mean, the wrong calculation. Almost everybody is having Omicron. And government says only 1,500 cases for a day. So it was laughing matter. So that's why I said the picture is completely different from the beginning. So we got our first patient in April 2020. And that is the time we had to open our eyes. I can remember in 1988, when we got first HIV patient in Casa Street, what happened? The patient admitted at 12 o'clock. The people who came to work at 1 o'clock, the nurses and the doctors, everybody left the hospital. There were only 3 doctors in the hospital, entire hospital, Casa Street. And there were only 2 nurses. Everybody is gone with the first HIV patient in 1988. In fact, same thing happened here. I expected people, because people knew if you get COVID, you get strangled and taken to IDH hospital and put in the hospital for 14 days, more than that, those days. And everybody labeled you as having COVID, and there are a lot of social problems as well. So therefore, I expected people to run. Yes, it happened. Luckily, that time, the Teldeni hospital was named, upgraded to COVID center. Actually, we went and inspected with the director, Dr. Ratnayak, at that time. So we went as a team, COVID team, and we inspected and we upgraded that hospital to manage COVID patients. So from then, whenever the COVID patient comes, we used to send there. But the meantime, we did actually very good thing, because everybody is naive about the management of COVID, including the world, WHO. Nobody knew what kind of disease and how to manage. So therefore, we had a brainstorming session, because we knew the pregnant mothers can die compared to a normal woman. Is 1.5 per thousand compared to 1.2. So therefore, we in the National Hospital, we have 3 units, all the consultants, doctors, nurses, and the pediatricians, anesthetists, we all got together and we had a brainstorming session. So this is very beginning. It's in April when we got our couple of patients to wards. I'm glad we had that, because then only we planned many things afterwards. So that discussion came, and we want to have a separate ward for COVID patients. Because we knew Teldenia cannot manage obstetric patients, because there's no emergency. We cannot transfer patients from Teldenia to Kandy. So therefore, we thought of having a separate ward. We discussed and we took over one of the pediatric wards with less number of patients. And you don't believe, when we send patients, nobody wants to take obstetric patients in that unit. So we were in a problem again, because nobody wants to take obstetric patient in separate unit. And the nurses and doctors who used to assign for that unit, they didn't want to take obstetric patients. So what we have done, so we have started a triage system. So each ward, 3 units, each ward started a triage system. Whenever a patient comes, you triage them clinically and investigations. You know, that time we had PCR only. It will take about 48 hours, 72 hours to get the PCR report. Not like nowadays. Now rat is there, rat investigation is there, then and there you can do it. So you can imagine, you get the patient, you're suspicious, you do a PCR, you have to wait for at least 48 hours to 72 hours to diagnose. So we had a extremely difficult time. Where are we going to keep these patients? And the Delta variant was very virulent. And if somebody gets our experience is, if pregnant mother gets, about 75 to 80% of patients become worse. So that is the period. Now Omicron, we know, if you get 100 women gets Omicron, only 1 or 2 people gets bad. So that's the difference between Omicron. I mean, a variant as well as the vaccination actually help us nowadays. So then we had a problem. So all three consultants, we got together, Dr. Abekun and Dr. Ekanayakar. We got together and we thought of having separate isolation units in each ward. And we have allocated 5 beds, and we did allocation, and we used to keep patients in those isolation units completely separate from other patients. So the testing was only the PCR that time. A treatment, nobody knew treatment. We arbitrarily treat with antibiotics. Now we know azithromycin can be given, but those days used to give so many different things. Antivirals used to give, antiviral and antibiotics, and so many things used to give. And monitoring was one of the problems we had, because we have now pregnant patients, 3 times a day you have to check the fetal heart. So that was a difficult task, because 3 times a day, how can you go in and see inside these isolation units? PPE, now we know what is PPE and how to wear it. But those days, now we have not seen a PPE, except we used to do with the PPE HIV patients when you are doing the operations in the theater. But the PPE, of course, we knew it's not a respiratory disease, it's a bloodborne disease. So we were not that much of scared. But here we know if you expose, you're going to get COVID. So PPE was a new thing for us as well as our staff. And the other one is a staff rota, because you can't ask everybody to come for work, because if you get infection among staff, healthcare workers, then everybody gets, then you get a big problem. So therefore we had to divide the staff into 3 groups, 3 rotas, and we started working on that. And the quarantine also problem. When one of the staff gets, then that person we have to quarantine that person for 14 days. So that's another problem, another thing we were thinking of. So therefore staff quarantine center we wanted to start. That's how the Pallekale was started. So to keep the staff people who are in quarantine. What I'm talking today is, I think most of the hospitals have done, including Peradeniya and Anuradhapura, and especially major hospitals. But I thought of, sharing the experience for the people, what has happened in especially this specialized units during COVID period. So PPE, personal protective equipment, was a problem, because even the Ministry of Health didn't have PPE that time. So we discussed with the director. Director says they have ordered, but they haven't got anything so far. So in the meantime, I was actually searching for the material to stitch PPE. Then actually I met a person when I went to collect the material. That person says, Peradeniya Hospital, they are stitching. So I went to Peradeniya Hospital. So they were very helpful. They in fact gave the block how to stitch a PPE. And told me where to buy that, the material. So we stitched 300 numbers of PPE with the use of one of the garments in the Kadugasthuta. They did this free of charge for us. Then we want to have a partial type of PPE to people who are working outside, like the minor employees, admission, So we bought umbrella material, the cloth material, and we stitched 200 numbers. And the face mask was not there. There's a severe shortage of face masks. Surgical masks are not there. KN95 was not heard of those days. Everybody looking for the N95, which was very expensive and difficult to get. So because of our staff, what we realized, our staff was very scared of this disease unless we give some protective equipments. So therefore, we stitched 200 face masks with cloth. We got some standards and we clothes. Again, this another government factory actually helped us doing this free of charge. And we got goggles free of charge, donations. And from our hospital staff in the office, they made us 100 face shields. You know, face shields was actually very new thing for us. So they tailor-made and did very locally made face shields. And after giving the PP, partial PP clothes, face shields and face masks, only our staff were ready to look after patients. You won't believe we started very early. In April itself, we started educating people. Whoever come to our clinic, we used to tell them about the COVID. Even we don't have patients, very much, large number of patients, we have to be ready in future. So this is one of the things actually, one of the good things we started. Then our pregnant mothers were informed about how to go away from COVID-19. Though we get PPE, nobody knew how to wear it. So we made a guideline how to wear PPE and donning. And we had to demonstrate and show them. So we had to take a lot of sort of lectures, workshop-like things to tell them how to wear the proper way of wearing PPE. What we have realized during that time, the Delta variant, a lot of patients get admitted, not like Omicron. Now, very few people come to the hospital. But that time, because they get bad, so, and they get admitted, and the government policy was catch them and take them to the hospital. So sometimes you feel like laughing now, but that was the time, people were scared. So a lot of people come in, so therefore we have to get ready to accommodate a lot of patients coming to the hospital. Another interesting thing what we found was about 50% of patients coming to the hospital are in the third trimester. They're about to deliver. So as Professor Kanda would say, the delivery was a challenge. Delivery was a challenge because if they are going to labor, they stay there for 6 to 8 hours. They breathe, they shout. So viral spread is very high. So a lot of people has to be around the patient. So they are very vulnerable to get the infection. Same with the cesarean section. The world opinion was time of delivery is not to be altered due to COVID-19. But believe us, our 3 consultants, we have had a discussion. We realize if their term, if they after 34 weeks, if you deliver, you can save a maternal death. Because if they get lung infection, if they get respiratory difficulty, then there's a very high risk for baby to die because of hypoxia. With the earliest hypoxia, baby die. And the second reason is it is very difficult to anesthesia team to look after those patients during surgery as well as post-operative period. Because with the pregnancy, if you have to take patients to ICU, it is extremely difficult to resuscitate with the large abdomen. So therefore, we actually did a lot of cesarean sections. You can see, normally in Sri Lanka itself is 45% vaginal deliveries, and collectively, almost 51% we did cesarean sections. Actually, this saves most of the deaths. This saves most of the deaths. So, cesarean section was the treatment. So what we used to do, now the experience what we have got, we spread that experience to the other hospitals around. You know, a lot of junior doctors, a lot of our trainees are around. So they used to give call and ask. So I used to tell them how to manage a unit. And the message was given was, if they're term, do a cesarean section and deliver. That's why we had very few maternal deaths. Now there are 61, 60 maternal deaths in Sri Lanka so far. You can see there were only 159 cases in 2020, 11,055 cases in 2021. You can see the increased number of maternal cases. Maternal deaths, you can see again, go with the wave. The August and the May, July period is the worst period for maternal deaths because number of cases are very high. It is very interesting and very funny. You know, we had the worst period in August 2021. And the Ministry of Health sending guideline management for pregnant mothers and postpartum mothers in September 30th. So it's very funny. They have sending a guideline after everything. Even in the college, I'm actually regret being a consultant and ex-officer of the college. Their guidelines also came very late. So therefore, during May, August period, we were on our own. So our expertise, the consultant expertise, took decisions and did many things. That's why I want to share those things with you. These are locally made, I would say, things to take PCR and RAT, locally made. There's nothing was available that time. And this is the isolation ward we have designed. One of our postnatal wards we have taken to isolation ward, and we separate and did things like we had the windows, we had the monitors, and you can see the blue thing inside was the new toilet, because the most difficult problem was the toilet, because a lot of people are sharing the same toilet. So we had to build a new toilet very quickly. We had to build it. So actually within a couple of days, we built a toilet inside this isolation room. I think other units also did the same thing. I don't have pictures of them. Then we decided to have a distant care unit because we are flooded with patients. I can remember one time the whole isolation unit is full and there were flow patients also in the isolation. So we want to have a place close to us to look after patients who are not need any obstetric or medical emergencies. So we selected Katugastara Hospital with the help of provincial director and our director and the COVID team. So we managed to upgrade this hospital. We took one ward and upgraded to a COVID management unit. We have supported them with the infrastructure, with beds and food. Even food we used to go and give, mosquito nets, the steam inhalers, linen, pillows, and so many things. Because when pregnant mothers go there, that hospital was not ready for look after pregnant mothers. And we made a medical officer roster and to go and see these patients every day and emergency. And I must appreciate the support given by the DMO and the team in Katugastara. When we went there to first discussion, they almost chased us. They almost chased us. They said, no, why you selected this hospital? No, we don't want to take. But after discussion, negotiations, they were ready to take. And you, believe me, they were very happy after 1 year of managing patients. They were very helpful, so I must congratulate them. So this is the unit we have selected. And so you can see number of patients. In August, we had actually, even Katugastara Hospital was flooded. There were about 55 patients in one day. I can remember. I visited the all the beds are full and they have a lot of patients. So it's like a, epidemic, and we had a lot of problems that time. Anyway, we managed. So this is inside the Katugasara hospital when we started. And in fact, we have to take these photographs. You might wonder why I have taken photographs. We have taken these photographs and bring it back to the hospital, our hospital, and show to our SHOs and registrars. This is a safe place, not to worry. This is a safe place, and we have PPE equipment and everything we can manage. So we used to do that inside this unit. Operating theater was another problem. So we had to have a separate operating theater. As Professor Kandavud mentioned, you need a separate theater. Nobody can go in when they started a case. And to get ready with the PPE, it will take almost about 45 minutes if you want to do a cesarean section. And we had to paste on the walls what to do, because nobody knew how to wear a PPE, especially if you come for emergency. So we had to paste these things in the wall and tell how to do it. And removal of PPE, everything was actually very tricky those days. So we used to have separate bins. We had to label it and tell people to do it, because there's no one to do these things. You had to do it yourself. So this is the organization we did. So pediatrician has to come with the PPE, and the anesthetist has to wear. You can see anesthetist machines have to be covered. There are a lot of work inside other than the managing COVID. So you can see when they are getting ready to do a cesarean section inside the theater. It will take, I told you, it will take about 45 minutes. And it's a great risk for actually anesthetist and the minor staff compared to obstetricians, because we operate on the downside, but they have to face for the expiration of the patients, which can cause infection. So this is how people used to get ready. And at the beginning, everybody was scared. But after some time, after you can think of, after about one to 2 months, they were enjoying actually doing this. So now nobody's scared, everybody's ready to do. And this is how we do. In Italy, the mother died because of COVID. When she was almost dying, she made a request from her obstetrician that before she died, she wanted to hold the baby. So that's what happened in Italy. Luckily, we didn't have. We should not forget all the healthcare workers in this country work hard. Like in my hospital, all the hospitals in the country work hard. I don't know whether anybody has got any appreciation from anyone, but your heart, you have done your best with your limited resources and you succeeded. That's why you're facing here. Thank you very much.
Right. So that finishes all 3 lectures meant for this session. Unfortunately, we have no time for questions since we are on the dot. And I would like to invite Dr. Vimala Bekon, consultant obstetrician and gynecologist of National Hospital Kandy, to award the certificates for the 3 speakers. Dr. MC Gihan. Yeah, photo එකක් yeah. Professor Chaminda Kandawuda. And Dr. Sadda Hemapriya. And the tokens of appreciation. Dr. MC Gihan, Professor Chaminda Kandawuda, and Dr. Sadda Hemapriya. Right, so that concludes the session, and we have to move to upstairs, first floor, for hall A for another session on Chronicles of Total Joint Replacement in Sri Lanka by Dr. Sunanda Udagidara. So we'll move up to first floor. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Champika Gihan, Professor Chaminda Kandoda, and Dr. Sarada Hemapriya, sir, for devoting your time and energy to make our symposium stand out. We remain grateful for the sea of wisdom and knowledge you showered us with during this short period of time. That remarks the end of the symposium lectures today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your unwavering attention paid throughout this lecture series. We have to mention that an event of this nature would not have been possible if it weren't for the presence of chairpersons right here. We offer our heartfelt gratitude to our chairpersons present here today. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Chaturanga Kappetiyagama, consultant gastrointestinal surgeon and former KSM secretary, to give away the certificate of appreciation to our chairpersons. May I invite Dr. W. Abekon to accept the certificate of appreciation from the hands of Dr. Kappetiyagama. Next, may I invite Dr. Samananayakara to accept the certificate of appreciation. Now, we conclude this symposium. Next, please join with the keynote address on Chronicles of Total Joint Replacement in Sri Lanka, the lecture delivered by Dr. Sunanda Udagedara, consultant orthopedic surgeon. It will be at Hall A. I would like to request all our guests to move towards Hall A. Thank you.
I can reach the stars, pull one down for you, shining on my heart, so you can see the truth. And this love I have inside is everything it seems. But for now I find it's only in my dreams that I can change the world. I will be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something. Maybe if I could change the world. If I could be king, even for a day, I'd take you as my queen. I'd have no other way. And our love will rule in this kingdom we have made. Till then I'd be a fool, wishing for the day that I can change the world. I would be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good, baby, if I could change the world. Baby, if I could change the world. I could change the world. I would be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good, baby, if I could change the world. Baby, if I could change the world. Baby, if I could change the world. If I can reach the stars, pull one down for you, shining on my heart, so you can see the truth. And this love I have inside is everything it seems. But for now I find it's only in my dreams that I can change the world. I will be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something. Maybe if I could change
kind attention to you all. The time for tea break is now over. Kindly return to Hall A to participate in the plenary lecture. Thank you. The time for the tea break is now over. The next lecture will be at Hall A. That will be done by Professor Neelika Malavige. Now it's time for the plenary lecture in Hall A, and that will be done by Professor Neelika Malavige. Kindly return to Hall A.
Gamini Rajpaksa ne? Oh, that's right. Current sound. Oh, මෙතනින් ඔපරේට් කරන්න. සවුන්ඩ්ස් මෙතනින් කේබල් එක ගහන්න වෙයි අර සවුන්ඩ්ස් කරන කට්ටියට තමයි ඒක නම් කියන්න ඕන. මේකෙන් බලන්න. පොල් එකෙන් බලන්න ඕනද? තාරකයි. ඊගෙන කෝ මේකට කපන්න. සෙන්ඩේෂන් එක ඕපන් වෙන්නේ. තියනවද? එහෙම කරන්න. සෙකලප් එක.
කොහොමද කරන්නේ? දැන් මෙතන තියෙනවා. දැන් තියෙනවා. කොහොමද නැද්ද?
අද ප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් එක මොකක්ද? එන්න.
අයියෝ කොහොමද නැත්තේ?
දැන් දවල් තියෙන ප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් එක. ඔව්.
දැන් ඊළඟට තියෙන්නේ.
ඊළඟට තියෙනවද? මේකද ප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් දැම්ම ඕපන් වෙන්නේ.
ඩොක්ටර් ලැප් එකෙත් දාගන්නේ. මගේ එකෙත් තියෙනවා ලැප් එකෙත් තියෙනවා.
දැම්ම.
ඔය බලන්න මොකද ප්‍රශ්නේ? මොකද්ද කියන්නේ? ඒක නැද්ද මේක?
මගේ එකේ තියෙන්නේ මේකේ තියෙන 2013 ඩොක්ටර් එක දාගන්න.
මේක. මෙතන මගේ ලැප් එකේ තිබ්බ කියලා කමන්නේ.
ප්‍රශ්න.
ඒක අනිත් ටොක්ස් වලට. තුන්වෙනි එකද කොහොමද?
ඒ වෙලාවට දාගන්න.
ඒක වෙලා නැහැනේ. අනිත් ටිකත් මේකටම දාලා තියන්න බැරිද? අර ටික කොපි කරලා දේශී දැන් තව තියෙනවා දැන් 11 මාර්නේ තියෙන ඊට කලින් තව තියෙන කීනොට් එකක් අන්නේ කිව්වලා තමයි තියෙන්නේ. මෙතන කීයද තියෙන 11
මේක දිනනකොට තියෙනවා. ලැප් එක පොඩ්ඩක් ඔන් කරන්න මම.
පාවන තියෙන
කේබල් එක.
පුතා තියෙන්න බෑ පුතා දැන් කරන්නේ මොකද? මගේ මූණ පෙන්වන්නත් ඕන. මේක නම් ඕන් වෙනවා. මේක නම් ඕපන් වෙනවා.
එන්නද? ස්ක්‍රීන් එක ගන්න.
ආවි.
duplicate.
ෆුල් ස්ක්‍රීන් දාන්න එච්චර දෙන්න.
නෑ.
අර වීඩියෝ එකට යන්න.
හරි දාන්න. නේද?
වීඩියෝ එකට යන්න.
ඔඩියෝ එකක් යනවා ડોක්ටර් කොහොමද?
ඔන්න වීඩියෝ එක තමයි මොකද නේ කලින් ඉංග්‍රීසි වීඩියෝ එක.
අතන සර්ච් කරලා දෙන්න. විතර නැති චුට්ටක් දාන්න.
වීඩියෝ දෙකක්
හරි හරි.
කලින් එක බලන්න. ඒක සද්ද තියෙනවා. සද්ද තමයි.
ડોක්ටර් ඔඩියෝ එකක් යනවද?
ඔව්.
ඔඩියෝ එක බලන්න. ડોක්ටර් ගේ තුන්වෙනි දෙවෙනි තියෙනවා.
තුන්වෙනි එක.
දෙවෙනි එක තියෙනවා.
දෙවෙනි එක තියෙනවා. තවන්නේ මම ඉරණ ඉන්නවනේ අපිට මෙතන ඒක ගලවලා තියෙනවා.
ඒක ගලවන්න. ડોක්ටර් මේ දෙවෙනි එක තියෙන්නේ. එහෙම ડોක්ටර්. ඒක කලින් එක ප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් තියෙනකොට
ඒකත් මේකට
දාගන්නද?
ඔව් ගන්න. ඒක ලේසි නේද? තුන්වෙනි
ප්‍රොෆෙසර් ගාමිණී රාජපක්ෂ.
ඔව්. මම ඒක දෙවෙනි නේ.
දෙවෙනි.
මේක ටයිම් මෙතන ඉන්න.
මේකනේ සර් ඒක.
මේක checking everything. First one is yours? Sure. Gamin right. Second one. Sound नहीं वीडियो के sound भी तो है තුන්වෙනි එක තුන උකට උදා ගන්න තුන මාරු කරන්න ඕනේ.
ඔව් එහෙම කරමු.
මොකද මම ඉවරන කයින්දලා
යන්නේ.
යන්නේ. ඔය ටික කොට එහාට කරනවා නම් මනම් තියෙනවා.
හරිද මේ ටිකනේ?
ඔව්.
හරි. ડોක්ටර්ගේ මේකයි මේකනේ ડોක්ටර්ගේ.
මොකේක ඔව්.
ડોක්ටර් මම වෙනම ෆයිල් එකකට දාන්න
हाँ
මම
फाइल करता है अरे डाला ही नहीं They have old version of my computer. So my computer, 2019. So that's what I put my computer. So
I don't. මේක ડોක්ටර් එක.
ඒකත් තුනක් කොයි ඔහොනවා මුලටම යන්නකෝ හරි හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා මෙන්න මේක අඩ කරන සවුන්ඩ් අඩ කරනවාද කියලා අර ડોක්ටර් එකේ දාලා ඉන්න ડોක්ටර් දාගන්නකෝ එතකොට නැත්තම් ආට යන්න පුළුවන් So I'm going to check with the sound is working. I thought you were going to miss this lecture.
Yes. KSM Oh,
I'll bring my. Sure. Okay, okay, sound.
hi, Dr. Makebala.
interrupt no. Dan hilang.
Pennan display audio. Video ke balam.
Video. Or mula video ke tu? Mula orang double click kan ke tu? Dua pernah nanti. Mungkin ada pada demo, presentation model demo ni dah kan.
Oh, lagi dah.
Macam okay.
Kita kadikan. Udah ke? Ini orang kata audio kanal tu.
Oh. Oh, kena hilang. Hilang saya. Ni kalau demo terus kena digerak.
Oh,
Nah, yang mana ni? Ibu kerana dulu lagi kan tengah
and destroys any aerosolized viruses or bacteria. Multifunctional face mask. The target has been to reduce both the waste burden and the impact on the environment. As such, cotton A commonly available natural degradable fabric material has been used in 3 layers, nanotechnologically modified individually to have unique
सेव करने कितना वेला है ना सेव करने
Don't save करना.
डोंट सेव करना और डॉक्टर यार ना अभी ये कल है रिफर करना है चला तो ये यार तो ये तो नहीं है मगे मैं कर मुझे ना तो कराने के बाद कराने है तो राउंड से empty ना वीडियो पे ना
हलने हाय मंगला
हाँ sorry no faculty के
Mama, doctor and mama, tuition to
no no artificial intelligence can कोई रटा था
mage company.
हाँ right we are also working on I'm for the right
I know.
yeah
You are Colombo.
no no फिर आते
Which faculty?
science
Mama, faculty.
कोई था no you student chemistry का
Vajra mate class.
वजीर माँ के स्टूडेंट वजीर माँ अलग रूम में गए
Vajra mate PhD करके एक था.
हाँ मैं केम्ब्रिज किया
Mama अफसर दिया.
अफसर था
Vajra अभी एक था उसे.
वहाँ मना तो करे
ये
कंप्यूटर साइंस में करे
mama एक ना पता नहीं एक इंग्लैंड में.
हाँ वजीर हो गया हुआ था मामा
Traveling यहाँ Cambridge किया mama अफसर दिया. Ya, no.
वजीर बंदे स्टूडेंट
Vajra mage school है.
Oh,
जब ये टिकटों में कभी
वजीर लगे अम्मा ने तुम लाए वहाँ पे एग्जाम ये अलग एग्जाम रोने में निकले मांगे ही आता क्या ना
तो मत नहीं सकते. mama ने faculty की PhD
कंप्यूटर साइंस में ने इधर तो बंदा थी थे ये था बंदा कितना लेकिन कंप्यूटर बंदा ना था
सर पॉइंट है का
गन बोला ना कौन से गन एक दिन थी ना तो
dan darah tin yani
और पेनन रोनो
අතුල ඩොක්ටර් කෙනෙක් මං ඩොක්ටර් එකෙන් පොඩ්ඩක් දාලා පෙන්නන්නද
දීසිය මොනවා නැත්නම් මම කත් මෙහෙම අතවන්නේ උත්නවනේ
හරි මේක ප්‍රශ්න
in over movimento over protono tipo Andrea return NO capital save card මට මතක වෙන ප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් එකක් මම ඒකට අර තව එකක් තියෙන එක මේක අතර තිබ්බහම ටයිටල් එක දීලා තියෙන මේ ඊපස්සේ no text no G හරි අඩිගේ මම මේ අර ඉස්සෙල්ලා කියන එක සේව් වුණාද
සේව් කරලා දෙන්න
දැන් අප යන්නකෝ අර ඉස්සෙල්ලා මම දැක්කා නේ හරිනේ
හරිනේ
මේක දැන් මහමත් සද්ද දෙනවනේ සමහරවිට මම කරේ ටෙක්නිකල් ලෙසන් එක මම කරන්න ඉන්නේ
මේ ලෙසන් අය බඩ මේක දාන්න පොයින්ට් එක
මම කියන්නේ ඒක අපිට අතින් හරවන්න කරන්න ඕනේ
මේකෙන් උදේ ඒ කියන්නේ මේකෙන් අරගෙන අමාරු වෙන මේකෙන් බලලා ඕන තැනට ගිහම එතනට හරි
හරි නේද thank you
මේක දැනට ස්ක්‍රීන් කරලා තියන්න
හ්ම්
අතුල
පළවෙනි එක නේ ගයින කෙනකොටම ඇවිල්ලා පටකලා ඕපන් කරලා දෙනවා.
හරි.
ඒක ලොකු දෙයක්. ඒක මේකත් දාන්න පුළුවන් පොයින්ට් එකක් සෙෂන් තියලා රික්වෙස්ට් කරනවා. Thank you.
ගන්න. හරිනේ. ඩොක්ටර් එක අවුලක් නැහැ. ඩොක්ටර් එක අවුලක් නැහැ. ඔඩියෝ එක මෙහෙන් අර හරි ගසලා තියෙනවා.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the 44th Annual Academic Sessions of Candy Society of Medicine 2022. I would like to start Symposium 4, Are We on Par with Novel Technologies in Medicine? To chair the sessions, may I invite Dr. Chandrasiri Narampanawa, ENT surgeon at National Hospital Kandy, and Dr. Sakuntala Jayasinghe, consultant chemical pathologist, teaching hospital Peradeniya.
Very good morning to you all. Good morning. I think we are lucky to be here to this entertaining presentation going to be conducted by three eminent personalities in Sri Lanka. They will talk about the novel technologies and various advances and what we can gain in medicine from those things. And without wasting much time, I'll introduce the first speaker. He is Professor Atul Pereira, who is going to talk about genetic manipulations. And just to give him a short introduction, he's Emeritus Professor from University of Peradeniya, BSc with DSc and PhD UK and MSc Japan in genetics again. And he's a BSc Agriculture graduate from the prestigious University of Peradeniya. He has a postdoctoral training, UK, USA in molecular biotechnology. And he has more than 200 international and national publications and presentations. He was a former senior professor in agriculture biology, director PGIA, and UN consultant in biosafety, Food and Agriculture Organization consultant in biosafety, national consultant in biosafety. And not only he's academically is a great person, he has been a good sportsman during his school time in Trinity College and in the University of Peradeniya. He has taken part and played for the school and the university cricket and rugby team. It's over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I must thank the Council of the Kandy Society of Medicine, Kandy Society of Medicine, for giving me this opportunity to speak to you on a very important topic, gene technology in safe mode for national development. Safety is something that every being looks for, seeks safety. Every human being, when we get up in the morning, we don't just roll out of bed. We get down very carefully, safely. When we drink a glass of water, we do it safely. You can get choked. And so safety is so very important. So if safety is so important for just to get up, get down from the bed, just to drink a glass of water, because they have inherent risks, just imagine these new technologies, what type of risks that they introduce to the environment and human health. That's what we are going to talk about. These new technologies that we want, but we want to use them safely, in safe mode. That's what biosafety looks for, to provide a safe environment for the use of these technologies. So, yeah, let's have a look at some of these risks involved in these technology manipulations. The chemical world. We as scientists have studied and we know everything about chemical bonds, the ionic bonds, the covalent bonds. And then what did we do? We used technology to manipulate them. We manipulated. And there are more than, not 1 million, I'm referring to a UN report, more than 100 million novel compounds created by humans. And they are everywhere. They are in the air we breathe, the water we drink, the soil that our plants are on, the food that we consume. They are in the clothes that we wear, what you sit on, what you sleep on, the cosmetics that they put on, children's toys, babies' milk bottles. These chemicals are there. Are we aware? Are we aware of the risks? I'm not saying we don't want this. No. We need all of these. But we need to be aware of the risks. They rub on our skins. Do they get into our bloodstream? I don't know. You may know that. Have we looked at those risks? This is the chemical world we are living in. This is evolution. You can't stop it. We need to manipulate it in a safe manner for the benefit of the country and our children. Then we go into the biological world, technology. Using technology, we are able to manipulate the molecule of life, the DNA. And today you can produce number of novel organisms, large number of novel organisms. We call them transgenics, or we call them genetically modified organisms. It's a very simple thing now. You can get kits to do this, to produce genetically modified organisms. We call them transgenics. And then we'll look at it later. That's the one that will concern the medical people, the biological world. And then the IT world, the 5G, that's going to come to Sri Lanka. We need this. Of course, we need all of this. But are we aware of the risks that are inherent in these technologies? These are perceived risks of the 5G. The genetic damage, cancer, cellular state changes to reproduce, memory defects, perceived risks. All we got to do is to get some experts and tell us how safely can we use this. That's what we need to do. To look at the safety methods. so that you can minimize or mitigate these risks that are inherent in these novel technologies. So biosafety refers to identifying the hazard that causes these risks, assess the risk, and then manage it. Not to stop, manage it. That is what biosafety refers to. Sometimes people misunderstand. They say, Atula Perez come, he's trying to stop everything. This biosafety thing is true. No. Biosafety is going to create an environment, a safe environment for the use of these technologies. So why is it even more important? To Sri Lanka, it's a very small country, our home. Just see, from Colombo to, Galle to Jaffna, it's about 500 kilometers. Across, say, from Colombo to Batticlo, it's about 300 kilometers. A hazard can move so fast. Within 24 hours, any hazard can move right across this country. We know about Omicron and we just heard about it. How quickly, by the time you seal Colombo, it's gone all over. That's why we have to be even more careful, because this small little island that we live in is so rich in wonderful biodiversity rich country. You have the ecosystems, the species diversity, the genetic diversity, the cultural diversity, farmland diversity. So rich. Do we want to get these technologies to have any significant effect on this? Is what we need to know. And then assess that risk and mitigate it, minimize it, so that you can use all of those technologies safely for the benefit of the generations to come. So safety first. We do this every day. Every time is safety, consciously, unconsciously. We practice this, safety first. So I will concentrate on the biological world that's more relevant to all of you. Manipulating the molecule of life, the DNA technology that produces transgenic organisms, GMOs, genetically modified organisms. FFPs means genetically modified food, feed, and processed products. We have plenty of those in this world. Let's look at those. And now the very recent, the most modern technology is DNA editing, where you can, I'll tell you how it's done very in a simple manner, where you can edit this molecule of life. You can just close your eyes and think of anything. You can produce that through these fantastic technologies. We need this, but we need it in a very safe manner, because with these technologies, you can move across species, across kingdoms. We have GMOs, where genes have been transferred from animals to plants, from plants to animals, from humans to microbes, every other way. These have been transferred. And therefore, you can cut across species and kingdoms, which naturally doesn't happen. So when we produce these organisms, we are producing organisms that are novel. They are carrying genes that they never had. And those genes are producing proteins that never did. And they are producing characters that they never had in the natural state. So surely we have to think about the risks that they can cause, or the damage they can cause due to these risks to the environment and more importantly, human health. In a very simple manner, it is, you have the organism X there. You are interested in that gene, so you take it out, and then you insert that into genome Y here, and you have a novel organism. This organism now contains this gene, new gene, that produces a new protein, that produces a new character. So it never did have that. This are called genetically modified organisms. And if you get any food from it, it's genetically modified, feed, and processed products in a very simple manner. Now, you just can't take a gene and put like that. You can't do that. It will never, ever express. A gene by itself will not express anywhere. You need a mechanism, more DNA elements to control and manage it, to switch it on, to switch it off. Genes are switched on, switched off right now. We have no control. Any change in the environment, they're switched on, switched on. So you can't just transfer a gene. You can't do that. You say you need all of these. You have the transgene, the gene you're interested in. You need a promoter where the enzymes come and attach and start transcription, expression. Then you need a terminator. It's not a terminator gene, a terminator sequence to show that transcription finishes. So all this have to go. You can't just transfer a gene. Minimum, all of these have to go. And then they cause an extra locus in the new genome. Extra gene, extra locus in that genome. Just look at this. It's just an example to you. This is an example of a transgenic corn plant that has a gene from a bacterium. This one here. This is the gene from the bacterium that causes a protein to be produced that is toxic to certain insects. Okay, so the plant produces a insecticide by itself. So that's not enough, you know. So you have to have some more genes going with it. The marker genes, the reporter genes, they are promoters, they are terminators. So when people say, you just transfer the gene, fantastic. No. All of these go. This cassette. Just look at this one. The gene itself is 3,500 base pairs extra. The promoter, the terminator, the marker gene, the reporter gene, they all have extra sequences that go and get fixed into this new genome. Thousands of new nucleotides. Base pairs are added to form this new locus. So this is the crux of the matter. Not the gene, not the product, but this technology is the one that is creating these risks to the environment and human health. I'm just giving you just a brief slide here to just briefly tell you about the golden rice that produces vitamin A, or the precursor of vitamin A. Just look at this. It's a whole heap of, this is the gene, but whole heap of other DNA elements and parts are transferred with it. And that goes, this is one way of doing it, this is another way of doing it, just to show you that not only the gene, but many other DNA elements and genes go with it in producing this transgenic. So what are these products? Plants, animals, fish, insects, microbes, whole heap of them have been produced through this technology. Foods are called GM food, feed called GM, genetically modified feed. Everywhere, isn't it? Everywhere. And others like cosmetics and processed products also have genetically modified material in them. So what are the transgenic plants? We go through very quickly because of the time. Cotton, soybean, maize, tobacco, tomatoes, you may have heard of the potatoes, golden rice, canola, blue rose. This is produced in Japan, but they haven't yet got that perfect blue color. They got the gene from some other plant, put it into the roses. A rose doesn't have the gene for blue color. They put this in and produced a blue rose, but they haven't got the perfect blue color. Still, just see. So a blue rose is now available. So if you're lucky, somebody will give you a blue rose for your next birthday. Carnations, drought, cold tolerant crops, pharmaceuticals being produced in plants, edible vaccines, and some can have multiple traits. So lots and lots of things, products have been produced through this technology. I'll go through very quickly. GM food that will interest you. Foods containing viable GM plants and animals. It has been categorized into 4, like maize and tomato. Foods containing ingredients from GMOs like flour, milk, oil. Foods containing additives from GM microorganisms, colors, vitamin, essential amino acids. Foods containing ingredients produced by GM microorganisms, and so on. So whole heap of them have been produced through this GM technology. More processed GM food. Surely these are in the market. GM, corn meal, corn flake, corn chips, chocolate, soy flour, and so on, so on. Don't read all of this. This is a slide I prepared for my students. And food additive, just see. All of these come from genetically modified organisms. All of these. So whole heap is it. So risk to human health has been accepted globally. Globally, it has been accepted because the hazard here is the new gene producing a new protein and the DNA elements. And this new protein that you are consuming with the GM corn or the potatoes or some other product can become toxic. It is a toxin to certain insects, but can it be toxic to us? So you have to decide. It's a medical specialist who have to decide. They have to tell us, if you eat so much, don't eat so much. It's not good for the elderly. Like that's how you assess the risk. And can it be an allergen, a new allergen? So you have to tell us. The experts will have to tell us. Do a risk assessment, a proper risk assessment before we import it, not after you import. You don't import biofertilizer from some other country and then start looking at risk. No. You assess the risk first, then import them. That's how you need to do this. The risk assessment is what the health authorities will have to do in all these foods that are listed, all of those. This is how it is done today. I'll go very quickly because of the time. Don't read all of it. Today, if you want to import a genetically modified food, say baby corn from America, USA, you have to apply to the Ministry of Health. Then your application will be sent to the Technical Evaluation Committee to a technical scientific risk assessment report. They will give a risk, they will assess the risk of this corn, genetically modified corn that I'm going to import before I import. And they will allow me or not. They will either give me a permit or they won't. That's what is being done now. This Food Act was revised in 2006 to include genetically modified food. So huge role to play the medical fraternity to make sure that the food we consume are safe. Sorry. Yeah, so this is a very popular slide with my students. Risk assessment has to be done in a scientific manner. You can't say, I was in this country, I consumed so much for 15 years, GM food, nothing has happened to me. No. Without an iota of evidence, or you can't accept those. It has to be scientifically done. Good science. You have to refer to articles published in index journals to do a proper risk assessment. It can be done. There's a methods of doing it. So let's go quickly to other areas where you can use this technology in dengue control. In dengue control, this is, you can see on top the spread of dengue all across the globe, isn't it? And genetically modified mosquitoes have been produced to control dengue. You may have heard about it. In the Ministry of Environment, there's a committee called the Committee of Experts. Actually, I'm there in biosafety. And there was an application, I think, from Sri Jawadanapura to conduct experiments with genetically modified mosquitoes to control dengue. And I don't know really what happened to it. That was about 10 years ago. We said it's okay, approved it, pending some certain changes to be done. So very interesting. What they do is they take the male Aedes aegypti mosquito, create a genetically modified version of it. Those male mosquitoes produce a protein And then when they mate with the wild type females, they produce progeny. They can't produce progeny because female, these larvae will die before they mature. So you release the genetically modified males, they mate with the local females that cause the disease, that can cause the disease. Then the progeny, the larvae, the female larvae will die because of this protein of that new gene. So in a simpler form, Oxitec is the in UK, they are the ones who produce this genetically modified strains of this mosquito. When they release it, they carry this dominant lethal strategy. It's called the dominant lethal strategy. These trials, I saw it 2 days ago. These trials have been approved to be carried out in Florida. It was done in Brazil and various other South America. There were problems encountered, but we approved this about 10 years ago. I don't know, man. I don't know what happened to it. It's a very good strategy. Very few risks. Although you can list, this is how it works. Here is the genetically modified mosquito that we are going to release. It will mate with this wild type female. And when the larvae will not mature, the female larvae will die. Because the females who bite us and carry the virus. It's a very simple thing. So it's been used successfully. So this is where the health people, the health authorities can get into. Dengue is so important for us to control it. And this is one area where this technology can be used effectively. As I told you, I'll just list them out. These are the various risks that you may encounter if you release these genetically modified mosquitoes. They can bite people. The public, they don't know anything. They're a bit scared. Will they survive? Will they cause any allergenicity? Is there a horizontal gene flow? Will this gene flow from these mosquitoes to other mosquitoes in our country? Will they transmit some other disease? So these are all the risks. So these can be assessed and used very carefully in this process. Okay. So again, genetically modified COVID vaccines. We know that there are 3 types of COVID vaccines. The one on top is where the spike protein itself is purified and injected. At the bottom is the mRNA. Most of the US vaccines do that. They inject the mRNA that codes for the code protein. And then that is used. But AstraZeneca is the one in the center. They use a genetically modified vaccine. I'll show you how it is done here. Here you have the adenovirus from the chimpanzee, and it is modified. It is disarmed. The virulent genes have been removed. All the other unnecessary genes have been removed. And this gene for the viral code protein has been transferred to this. So it's a genetically modified vector. And it is this vector that is used as a vaccine to give us immunity. So this is how it works. So this is again an area where our scientists can join up with all those other laboratories to see how the future can be made safe from these COVID variants that may come in the future. This is the latest one, the DNA editing. I'll give it very careful, very simple manner. Here is a gene that is not functioning properly. Oh, sorry. And you can use the DNA editing program to cut it open, repair it. And this is in the zygote stage of a growing fetus, zygote stage, and repair it and put it back. Or you can, once you break it open, you can put other genes, other sequences, whatever you want. And this is one technique of DNA editing. This is another one. This is a more popular one called CRISPR-Cas9, the same technology. You can open up the DNA in a zygote stage, do anything you like, do the repairs, and then you got a new novel product. Okay, so that's the CRISPR in DNA editing carried out now. This is the latest, and you can do wonders with this. They say that you can reverse the mutations that cause blindness. stopped cancer cells from multiplying. They have made cells resistant to AIDS virus. They are trying to see whether you can create people who have night vision, all types of things. And plants in agriculture, vast uses, fungal, bacterial attacks, and so on. So vast uses of this technology. Then the future. What can happen in the future? It's so vast that the potential is enormous. And you can just close your eyes and produce whatever you want. Okay? So very soon you get married and you go and, not me, the doctor, you go and meet the scientist and design your own baby. You want a brown hair, black hair, and you click, click, click on the computer. Brown eyes, blue eyes, one blue, one black, whatever you want, what type of nose do you want, you can design. You can design your own baby. It's coming, it's done. It's done. It is being done right now. And you dictate what your baby's character should be. That child doesn't know. He or she didn't ask for this. So there are huge ethical issues here. So the rich they have the money to do this, so they can produce super babies if they want to. And will these modifications, what can they do? What will happen if they are transferred to the next generation? Will they be stable? And China has already produced 3 children through DNA editing. They haven't even named them. And so it has been very successfully done. So what will happen in the future? I don't know. And they have matured, but they were born very, very recently, a few months ago. So then they have been globally condemned. That scientist was, transferred and so on. So finally, will this go into the sports arena? Can they produce cheetahs to run in the next Olympics? Can you take genes from cheetahs and horses and put into humans? They run the 100 meters in milliseconds. Can it happen? Can it happen? It can happen. You can produce increased muscle mass. Weightlifters will lift elephants, not weights. It will happen. It must be happening already. Increased speed, increased cardiovascular capacity. You run the marathon, not jog, and so on and so forth. So you will produce Olympic cheats and gladiators. So there are ethical issues. I'll go very quickly, okay, on these editing things. And you can look at this here, whether they can produce a bioweapon at the end. So pharmacogenomics, where there's a future, where you will give us specific drugs for specific people. And agromagic, a plant that will produce tomatoes, brinjals, chilies on top, potatoes, carrots at the bottom. Oh yeah, it's possible, it will happen. So I like to link this up finally with your team. How can we use this technology for the future of this country? Here is one. Can you recognize these 2 mountains? Those from the south can recognize the one at the bottom. The other one is Ritigala near the Kakirava Anuradhapura Road. And this is Rumasala, our gift from Hanuman. They are full of medicinal plants. Thousands and thousands and thousands of medicinal plants. And we have not identified, we means including me, not a single gene has been identified. We can produce thousands of pharmaceuticals. I think for any disease, for anything. So this is a huge opportunity awaiting. The pharmaceutical industry, where the health people, the doctors, scientists of other areas, the agriculturists, the scientists, the chemists, they all can join together and go into this pharmaceutical industry. So I like to conclude there. With your efforts, jointly, we can produce a new future, a safe future for our children and their children to come. And it's in our hands. And make sure that this technology, these current technologies that we don't miss that bus. We have missed many. This bus, don't miss it. It doesn't need diesel to run, so no problem. This bus is there. Let's catch it and let's join the world in using this technology in a safe manner. And I wish to thank the KSM again, Candy Society of Medicine, for inviting me and to make this presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pereira, for that very interesting lecture. I think that's good and bad in gene technology, but I wonder whether we worry about the safety of them. May I now invite our second speaker, Professor Gamini Rajapaksha, to talk on an overview of application of nanotechnology in medical and health sector. Professor Rajapaksha is a senior professor in chemistry in the University of Peradeniya. He has his PhD and DIC from Imperial College London, and he has been a postdoctoral research fellow from Imperial College and many other universities in the UK and Germany. At present, he is the coordinator of the MSc program in nanoscience and nanotechnology. He's a visiting research professor at the University of Texas at Arlington and the University of Mississippi, USA. He's a regular visiting professor at the Research Institute of Electronics, Shizuoka University, Japan. And he's a consultant in nanotechnology for clean energy generation and in health and medical applications, Western Norway University, Bergen, Norway. He's also a consultant in nanotechnology to Sri Lankan universities, many Sri Lankan universities and industries. And he has his research career, his research areas are numerous. To name some, they are photoelectrochemistry, electronically conducting polymers, liquid crystal, and the list goes on. There's so many. So he's, I think, the most suitable person to talk on nanotechnology. Over to you, Dr. Professor Rajapaksha.
Thank you very much for a very kind introduction. And I'm actually very grateful to Candy Society of Medicine for giving me this opportunity to talk on nanotechnology in medical and health sector applications. Actually, although the presentation has several topics, I'm not going to go into details of many of those things. I'll give a very brief introduction to nanotechnology, and then I will straight away go to nanotechnology in medicine. And then we formed a group called Bioprosthesis Group to make custom-made prostheses. I will show you a video of that. And then, of course, we collaborate with many industries to make antimicrobial and textiles many other properties, garments, gloves, face masks, etc. So I'll show you a video on face masks, and then nanotechnology in targeted drug delivery. And I will discuss a few examples that we have been working on. So nanotechnology is a technological aspects of nanomaterials. So what are nanomaterials? Materials with at least one dimension in the nanoscale. Nanoscale is simply size scale from 1 nanometer to 100 nanometers. So if you work on that scale, at least in one dimension, you are a nanotechnologist. So there are man-made materials, and most of natural materials are in the nanoscale. All your organs in your body are formed from the process called self-assembly. No one has created your ears, no one has formed your nose or any other organ. So they all were made from assembly called self-assembly of nanomaterials. So examples, there are many natural examples, as you can see. So we as chemists, we are pico scientists or pico technologists or angstrom technology. Nano is like 10 to the minus 9, pico is 10 to the minus 12. So we work on there, but nanotechnologists work on little bigger ones, several atoms together like. So if you take viruses, viruses are in the nanoscale. If you take bacteria, bacteria is bigger than nano, so bacteria in the microscale. Likewise, in the natural world, you have millions, trillions of examples. Also, I mean, similar number of examples have been created by people now. So I go into this prosthesis project. I'm not going to go into details of scientific things in this forum, but what we want to do is during that intense war, I happened to visit to Dr. Suravira's orthopedic unit because I had a pain in my ankle. So Dr. Suravira is a very good friend of mine, only senior to us in the undergraduate time. And he said, Gamini, there's nothing wrong with that, but I have so many patients with broken body parts with, during the soldiers, he had 200 or so. So he said, I can't manage them without prosthesis. I'm a math man. I didn't, in our O levels, we had actually biology and mathematics streams. I have chosen mathematics because I hate to do dissections of approaches and things like that. So for grade 9 and 10 also, I did mathematics. So, but then I borrowed 2 prostheses and then did X-ray analysis to find out that they are like made of stainless steel one. The other one is titanium alloy, 90% titanium, 6% aluminum, and 4% vanadium. So then I said, we make them, right? So we formed a group. So orthopedic surgeons gave us CT scan data, XRD X-ray data, and MRI data. And then we had computer scientists. Computer scientists converted this data to missing bone parts. And then we gave it to design engineers. So design engineers from our engineering faculty also joined, and they designed these prostheses to 1 micron precision. And then it's a computer program. And then the computer program was handed over to production engineers, and production engineers produced these prostheses to that accuracy. And then we gave it to me to make them biocompatible, because your body doesn't like these foreign materials. You have to fool your body saying that, no, this is not a foreign material. This is bone. So bone, we know what is bone made of. Bone is made of hydroxyapatite nanoparticle assembly with the bone cement that you make is polymethyl methacrylate, but collagen polymer is a natural polymer. So we know the architecture of bone. So we produce that architecture of the bone on these prostheses that we made. And then the first prosthesis trial one was made for an 11-year-old girl who lost her elbow joint due to 3-wheel accident. So we made this one and then made it biocompatible, osteointegrating, and non-toxic and non-corroding in these corrosive biological fluids. And then biologists tested biocompatibility, osteointegration, etc. And then it took some time to get ethical clearance. And Dr. Suravira worked very hard on that. And then transplanted. This girl could not, this was like that, so could not go to school for 1 year. But then after transplantation, she was fine and she passed A-level also very well. And then there was a man with massive cancer in his knee. So then while doctors were doing the surgery, we in the night, we went to the engineering faculty and made the prosthesis. It took about 8.5 hours. And by the time we took the prosthesis to the orthopedic, to the operation theater, close to the operation theater, doctors have removed massive cancer. I show you because time is limited. I'm not going to go into too much of details. What's wrong? So this explains everything very quickly within a couple of minutes. So this is bioprosthesis group, University of Peradeniya, and our teaching hospital. So Dr. Suravira and the team.